All right. Well, welcome again to the gathering. We're really glad that you guys are here. It's a small bunch tonight, but thanks for your commitment to being here. And I know many are joining us online tonight as well. And so we're excited to have them with us as we're live streaming this event as well. So, kiddos starting school tomorrow for everybody? Yes. Okay. All right. So, extra props to being here tonight and to tuning in because I know you could have probably used a few more hours to get ready at home, but it'll be worth your time, and we're glad you're here. And I'm just going to open us in prayer, and then I'm going to introduce our speaker tonight, and we're going to get going. A couple of just quick announcements in case you missed it the first time. If you do need foster care licensing hours or a certificate of attendance, just make sure you sign in out in the foyer. Those of you that are tuning in online, you should have received a foster parent verification form on the email as a link, and you'll just want to print that out and fill that out as you listen in tonight. But those of you that are here in person, you'll just pick up your certificate of attendance as you leave tonight, and then you'll turn that into your licensing specialist. There's also lots of goodies out in the foyer for you, socks and undies, a meal from Bethel Mennonite, and also luggage. So feel free to take as much as you can possibly use. We would love to send you home with everything that your family needs. So let's pray, and then we'll get started. God, thanks so much for just this group that's tuning in tonight and here in person, and for the kiddos and just the families that they all represent. And we're thankful for the opportunity that you give us to love on children and to be an important part of their lives. And we pray that tonight, as we learn more, that you'll enable us to be the best caregivers that we possibly can be. That you'd give us just ears to hear and hearts that are receptive, and that we would leave feeling encouraged and refreshed and ready to just take our parenting journey to that next level. Thank you for the volunteers. Thanks for Oasis, for all of the people who make a night like this possible. And we pray especially for families. We know so many right now that are just really, really, really struggling. They've had loss, they've had sickness, they've had kids with just huge issues, and it just feels kind of heavy right now. So we pray for those who just really need your strength and love, that you would wrap around them, that you would send people to be a practical support, and that you would give them the peace that only comes from you. In Jesus' name, amen. Well, I'm excited to have Mary with us tonight from Building Beyond Basics. And many of you know Kristen, who has been here with us many times before as well. And so we're excited to hear from you. And I know we've got some interaction that's going to happen tonight as well. So I'm just going to prepare you for that. She has big expectations of this group to be participating, even though I told her we typically tend to be a quiet bunch. So anyway, so welcome. Thank you so much for being here. And I'm just going to go ahead and turn it over to you.
Hello. Oh. Carpal tunnel syndrome. Okay. I'm going to stand up. Where do I hold this? Like, I know. Just raise your hand to tell me to behave. Recording, aren't you? You're recording. I'm sorry. So, hello, one and all. My name is Mary. Oh, this isn't going to work. Maintain the same distance, right? Closer. Is that good? Hello. All right. I'll get it. So, I don't feel like it's good. Try the other one. I think it's the microphone, not me. I love that. Hello? Is that better? I don't know. Oh, how about that? Okay, good. So, my name is Mary. So, if you have any questions, you can just say, "Hey, Mary, got a question." If you forget my name at any point, you works very well as well. I'm very familiar with it. You might just hear a slight accent in my dulcet tones. If I talk too fast at any point, let me know, because I am married to a British person, and I am a British person. And he's from the north of England. I took 6 months to learn how to understand him, let me tell you. And that was after I was married. I said, what? So, part of what we're going to be talking about tonight, ironically, is communication and like the essence of communication. In order to lead into that, we're going to start by saying hello and getting to know each other a little bit, because I don't know who you are. I didn't even know this group was here, gathered, the gathering, right? So has everyone been here before? At least once, right? Once, twice? Do you see familiar faces? I know none of you, none, so be super nice to me. Do you have any idea what I'm going to talk about when you read that? Any clue? Any clue? Do you know why I picked it? I was given free rein to pick any title I wanted. And I had an idea. I wanted to talk about communication, kind of. And then I was like, oh, one of the biggest key 3 words in a row that has helped me, I was going to say as a therapist, but really as a first before we even. So, unconditional positive regard has really, really helped me. So we're going to kind of go around and think, well, what does it mean? It's not necessarily a phrase that's banded around a whole lot, but it's really what each and every one of you, I anticipate, are already doing. All right, so pat yourselves on the back. Here I am. I'm like, you've turned out on a rainy evening, so we're good to go, right? But I unpacked it a little bit, so we'll go through that. Leading into, with unconditional positive regard, we can build moments. What does that mean? I'm making one right now. Can you tell? What does that mean? Pause for dramatic effect. All right? Building connection. So I'm going to make quite an effort this evening to make connections with you guys, but I apologize ahead of time. I can't get too close. I have a husband at home who's just had a bone marrow transplant. So I'm lucky to be allowed out the house right now. He has no immune system. So we're going to have a look at the whole thing and kind of, I'd say intermingle, but we're not going to move tables. I'm not going to get you up and jumping. Don't worry about that. But just like moving the brain cogs a little bit. Gretchen at the back, I'm very happy to say, is going to advance us to the next slide, which might contain everything I just talked about, because that's kind of how I roll sometimes, so you just have to bear with. The nice thing about unconditional positive regard this evening is I can really do nothing wrong, right? Because I go, well, take a breath. This is me. You can't actually have any problem with me at all, right? Well, we'll hold judgment on that. So what is unconditional positive regard? That's what we're going to run through. How does it impact not only our own lives, but also our relationships? Because how we view relationships comes from within. How we view ourselves. And you guys have done a lot more of this kind of work, I'm anticipating. And how do you recognize unconditional positive regard in the moment? I learned it initially during my work as a pediatric occupational therapist, largely because of other therapists close to me, mentoring me, helping me along the way, giving me sharp intakes of breath. Really? Did you really want to say that to that child? Was that really the right timing? Sometimes it's very subtle, and sometimes it can be premeditated. Often it just happens intuitively, okay? How do these moments build connections? Thank you, Gretchen. We'll move to the next slide. Well, we're not doing a college course degree here, which is good, because, No one can afford it these days, right? However, it's worth peeling back the onion a little bit and saying, where did this term come from? So there's this dude, and she's one of my favorite dudes. And to be fair, I learned about him in college. I think I might have read about him a little bit before, but Carl Rogers, psychology guy. I like his approach to life because he has this opinion that individuals have their own individuals' opinions and sense of self. And essentially, he says, you have problems, but ultimately the answers lie within you already. I'm just here to help facilitate and help you grow on that journey to self-discovery, in a nutshell. So that I kind of liked, because I didn't feel quite as stupid at college. Like, oh, so I just need to get to the answer and work through, like a problem-solving, person-centered approach. How does this apply then to parenting? So he has 3 main tenets. Number 1 is being genuine. I'm standing up here right now. Yeah, I mean, like, I'm in performance mode, okay? Dopamine's firing up. I'm like, oh, all charged up. I'm moving around a little bit. That helps me think. But when you stand up in front of a group of people, you're not always 100% yourself, all right? But I'm trying my very best to be genuine. 2 people in the audience know me already. They'll go, yeah, this is kind of how she rolls, okay? But to be genuine, what does that mean? To come at a problem, to approach a child with honesty, genuine feelings, so matching your feelings to theirs. Being direct, so not necessarily beating around the bush or confabulating, which, by the way, is one of my problems. I get a little tangential at times. And not to use a facade. So to be genuine in the moment means this. I'm currently doing mostly virtual teletherapy. So to be present with a child, for me, it's more challenging for me. I've always been like direct, like sitting next to someone, at least in the same room as them. So how can you get that genuine, not using a facade, like not being in performance mode? I found it really challenging. And one of the approaches that I've used is to reflect back. Is this better? Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm doing my best. Is that better? That's horrible to my ears. Is it all right to yours? Is it better to your ears? Because I sound really loud. No? Okay. I have to work on myself. Okay. So, one of the things that as I stepped into virtual therapy, how can I come across as being genuine and real in a therapeutic context? This is occupational therapy, play-based, child-led. Being able to tune in with a child across the internet and then reflect back. So we're pretty good in OT at going, yay, well done, good job, try again. Those phrases come very smooth and, being happy, being upbeat, revving up the mood. But what's really helped in terms of genuineness is being able to go, no, that makes me sad. When you do that, that makes me sad. And allowing time to process, digest, and move on. Having that element of, that level of trust within a relationship. So if I'm happy all the time going, yeah, you're doing a great job, good job, that's not real life. When we go through life, people upset us, you say things and people don't get the right end of the stick. right? They might not fully understand. So I started using phrases like my brain to your brain. Got it? Through the camera. Your brain to my brain, just because 5-year-olds tend to need more concrete. But to be genuine in my communications, that's really helped. And then props. Lots of Kleenex. Like, if you're making me sad, I'm just going to be picking up a tissue. Like, when you say that, it does make me feel, oh no, that makes me feel angry. And I've got like different picture symbols so that you can do things in a non-threatening way. You can approach difficult topics if you're consistent in such a way that they can learn. And this is what you're making me think in the moment. So it's child-led, but it's also reactive. You're allowing me to react. I'm giving myself permission to react so that we have an interplay. Ping, pong, ping, pong, back and forth. The second concept that Carl Rogers recommended is acceptance. So this is where unconditional positive regard is reinforced. Acknowledging feelings without passing judgment. And this, I have to say, has been my greatest learning curve. Why? I'm a pretty upbeat, fun person to be around, right? But I was, my approach to raising kids is based on how I was raised. And this is not a negative on my mum, but I will say, she will admit, if she was sitting here right now, she would be like, no, I didn't really like kids. The fact that you're still alive is some kind of miracle. So I grew up with, we're going to write. We're going to make cookies now, and we're going to have fun, right? Okay, Mum. Okay. So it wasn't that she didn't want to be warm and fuzzy. She was doing her best. Raising kids caused her a great deal of anxiety. She always felt like she was about to do something wrong. As an individual myself, I tend to be a little bossy. You learn about yourself as you grow up, right? I'm a little bossy. I'm on the bossy edge. No judgment. And working with kids, I have to take a step back and go, okay, we're doing this activity. It started when I had my own kids, and we'd be making pastry dough after school, and I'd be like, okay, so I know we have to do it like this and like this. And like if my mother-in-law is across the table watching me, which happened, it's like, everything has to be right. And it was very stressful. Or you don't want to hold them like that, you want to hold them like this. This is a phrase in England. You don't want to do it like that, you want to do it like this. Had a lot of that. They're from the north of England. It's very common. It's like the culture. Well, you don't want to do it like that. You want to do it like this. I'll show you. You hold your baby like this. Okay, because I thought, whatever. Anyway, that's under the bridge, right? You learn and you learn things about yourself. So going into pediatrics now, I'm using skills on other people's children, right? Bigger responsibility, I guess. And one of the greatest freedoms for me has been able to take a step back and go, all right, set up the activity, and this is the plan I have in my head, but not revealing that plan so that wherever that session goes is good. Oh, you dumped it out? Oh, that's great. Okay, now what are we going to do? What's next? So developing more of a cause and effect. This happened, so now what's next? Rather than, well, you've done it wrong. You weren't supposed to do it like that. You were supposed to do it like this. What are we going to do now? We're going to have to start all over again, clean up that mess. That would be my mother. No judgment. Talk to her daily. We have a very good relationship. She does much better with adults. So that passing judgment, working in a team helped me tremendously because I was met with a barrage of feedback. Kristen Bohan, Liz Brown, a bunch of really strong mentors in my background going, do you realize that you just said to that child, no, 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 no. I only did it once. I remember the day. No, 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 no. It just came out. It didn't come out again. I was given quite a lot of reflection on that one. I was not non-judgmental in that moment. Empathy. So tuning in to others, tuning in to feelings. At therapy school, we get taught a whole long list of things, how to do an assessment and an evaluation and a this and a that. At nowhere in all of that training do they stress the importance. And this is when we have students through, we're like, oh, and by the way, you're not going to learn this in school, but check how that child is breathing, how their muscle tone is changing in the moment, how their posture might be subtly changing. All of that is communicating to you how they're feeling, how they're tuning in with you. And one of my favorite things that kind of happens intuitively now is imitating and just following their flow. When you do that naturally without making it like a judgmental thing, but just naturally and subtly and kind of like, oh, we're going to learn in a minute, serve and return. Kind of like the sportsman model. Okay, you've served this idea to me, I'm going to return it back and forth and have a flow. Has anyone heard of that before? Serve and return? I'm excited, I've got a video clip. So, empathy really helps with your own understanding and your own sense of listening, being open to doing things their way, as long as we keep them alive and safe, and the house doesn't get burned down. You know, I've got criteria, I've got limits, but, you know. So Gretchen, let's go on to the next slide, please. These two handouts I printed for you. Why? Because if I had been offered these as I went into parenthood, I mean, I should have known them from college because I did learn about them, but the actuality of these, the relevance of this to raising kids, I'm like, laminate it, put it on your fridge. I would have done it for you, but I ran out of laminating sheets, you know. It's my life on a budget. We often think about, well, what's the priority? What's happening in a child's world and what's the priority? It makes sense that at a basic level, we need safety, survival, physiological needs. So often when a kid comes to us within the foster system, we don't know what's gone before. And we have to peel back the layers and start really at a, what do you like to eat? What fits the bill for comfort? All right, so that's your strongest, most foundational level. Safety, I think you guys can probably preach to me, because you guys have done a lot of training into trauma, developmental trauma safety, right? I would think, right? This comes next. And then from there, we move up to that building bonds and a sense of belonging. So it's not just open your door, this is your new place, but it's like open your door, this place is warm, we've got running water, there's a bed over here, it's comfortable, you can lie down, breathe comfortably, right? All the way up through, you're safe here. There's a door here you can close, if you want to. That kind of safety levels in practice. Friendship, family, security. This applies to all ages, so we're not going to talk about the latter. Until you get up to older, how many of you are fostering or adopted older kids, like teenager age, or are you mostly younger kiddos? Older? 12, 13. Okay, so then we do get into talking about, well, we start early talking about private parts of our body awareness, things that are private, things to keep within a boundary. And then you get up to 12, 13, and it's a whole different discussion. It's going to come to all of us, right? But it doesn't come before physiological and safety measures. And then above that comes esteem, self-esteem, sense of self, confidence, and then respect. Respect, not just the respect that a child gives to a parent, but the respect that a child feels when they look in the mirror. And that is a huge goal, right? And then finally, at the very top, and this is a societal thing, we've got self-actualization. So morality, creativity, spontaneous thinking, ideation, flexible thinking, problem solving, and acceptance of rules, acceptance of facts, and putting things into place. Okay? So it's a nice defining structure to go, oh, they've not got this. Why haven't they not got this? Why are they not feeling loved and belonging and a sense of belonging? Pare it back and go, oh, did they feel safe? Pare it back. Do they go, have they been sleeping in a car before they came to you, for example? You know, I don't have as much experience as you guys, but you hear these stories. So now you're opening the doors to new foundations for these kids. Next slide, please, Gretchen. You think one pyramid was enough, but no. This is my favorite. Why? Because I'm an occupational therapist, and what do we do in OT? What's our mantra? You learn through function, you learn through experience, and you learn through your senses. Who can tell me, and you can look on the board, it's fine, you can just yell them out. What are our senses? Kristen, can you name a sense? Touch, which is also known as tactile. Sometimes they give them fancy names. Anyone else? That's one. Taste, oh yes, please. Taste, auditory, listening. Sight, vision, seeing. Smell, olfactory. So we got gustatory for taste, olfactory for smell, visual, auditory, tactile. And then because I'm an OT, I throw in these two and I offer them up to you vehemently and passionately. Vestibular, the sense of movement. Where is my body in space? So if you close your eyes, you're all sitting down, this should not be threatening, but if you choose not to follow my directions, I quite understand. But if you close your eyes, don't do it yet, and turn your head from one side to the next, and then open your eyes, you know kind of where your body is above, below, and the sense of movement, all right? Go ahead and try it. Left, right, maybe up, down, all right, and stop. Inside your inner ear, there's these tubally things, like, what was it called, the cochlea or something. It's got semicircular canals. You don't have to remember any of these words, but it's filled with sloshy liquid. And inside the sloshy liquid are crystals that go, okay, it's like a spirit level. There we go. Is that what it's called over here, spirit level? A level, okay. So vestibular is very important. Children that I see in my field, and actually my own children, which is a whole nother story, bless them. If you have a child and you feel like saying, they have no idea where their body is in space, and they're so affectionate, they run up to me every day for a hug. And I'm like, let me see that. Okay. Boom, 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 boom. Okay. It's lovely and it's affectionate, don't get me wrong, but they're using you as a stop mechanism. It could be a wall, because they don't really have a sense of movement and control of that movement. That's vestibular. Does that make sense? All right, doorway swings, everyone, doorway swings. Proprioception is a nice long fancy word for, and I'll give you another example. Again, if you close your eyes and then put your arm out and move it in different positions like that. Like if I was to come over and get each and every one of you, it would be a lot of fun, but we don't have time. But like if I close my eyes and Kristen moved my hand like that, I should be able to replicate it. I can't actually remember what I just did, but yeah, you know what, right? That's proprioception. Proprioception. The sense of your nerves talking to your joints as to where, all right, what do we need this for? We need it for movement, goes along with vestibular. We need it for handwriting. We need it for using knives and forks. We need it for fasteners. We need it for holding a toothbrush. Kids that hold a pencil, and when they write, it's like they're writing with so much force they could be writing a message to China, right? Have you ever seen that? Right? Or conversely, it's that wispy and light that you think, are you being led by a fairy or a pixie? I'm not really sure. Proprioception, that awareness of force, pressure on movement. Very important for balance. So I kind of spend a lot of time on these, but they lead. Without these, solid. It's very difficult to then move up to the next levels. I worked for a while at a private school in Bradenton, and this was a cornerstone visual for parents coming in. It was private, very expensive school. I need my child to be better at their academics. They're failing in their academics, they're struggling in their academics, and that's what I need. Or they're having trouble with classroom behavior. 2 primary complaints. So then I'd say, okay, well, let's have a look at the skills that lie beneath that. And then we'll work on those together, because an hour with me a week is not going to do a whole lot, but an hour with us all together a week so that you can practice and incorporate activities at home is going to make a world of difference. Moving up to, now I feel my body in space. I have better posture, postural adjustments, motor planning, the awareness of 2 sides of your body. Therapists will often use the term bilateral integration, which basically means this is the middle of my body, right? From my head down, belly button down. I can reach across and get something from this side. I can reach across and get something from this side, right? Because I am brilliant. No, because I developed at a young age bilateral integration. I can bring both sides of my body together and manipulate something. And I can do it in any range. So kids that block and hold things tight to their body like this, if you see a kid cutting, and they're cutting like that, what's missing? They don't have good bilateral integration, they're blocking. So it's like a splinter, like, oh, hang on, let me just lean on that chair while I control my posture. But you're not really controlling your posture, you're leaning on your chair. When I'm cutting, I'm blocking in here to stabilize, for example, because I don't have this. I don't have stability up here. So it's all pieces on pieces on pieces, and it's just child development at the end of the day. But if you don't have it, how do you feel? Pretty anxious, inadequate. You're more open to bullying at school, etc., etc. So all of these, all the way up through. We're not going to talk on every and each one of them, but it gives you an idea. And what's at the very, very tippy top? Academics. And what are kids being pushed to do more and more early these days? The focus and the attention. Academics, right? Okay, Gretchen, let's hit the next slide. Thank you. Oh, yes. Questions? Please do put your hands up and we'll ask and deal with them as we can along the way.
Because of the day with the kids now, because things are so much more intellectual
Can everyone hear?
Trying to help them to learn is there's so much into the electronic, the here, right here, da, 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 da. How does this affect them when they're so young?
What a lovely question. So the question is, how is the use of technology and electronics impacting child development, in particular motor skills, vision? We had vision skills. It is limiting, and there is a lot of research these days in terms of children that are falling behind because of too early exposure or too much exposure during the course of their day on electronics. How can you help your kid? Well, the automatic reaction would be, no iPad for you. No, you do not get television time. I remember that, right? Saturday morning, I had Saturday morning, that was it. Or when you've done X, Y, and Z, then you can have 10 minutes of TV, right? So we have all kinds of different ways to structure this. You're going to see in the example when we do a case study, we're going to look at a little child next. And she thrives on electronic for many reasons. And kids have different reasons for thriving. So is the answer to put your foot down and be a hard no? Or are there ways to say, sure, no problem, just a sec, I'm just going to Velcro the iPad under the table. Yeah, lie down, and we'll put them in different positions. You want to watch your iPad? Get down on the right. So lying down, if your therapist has said more prone, more tummy time, is it okay to do iPad time at the same time? Absolutely. Because they're now working on weight bearing and pushing up at the same time as doing something that is a preferred activity for them. And I think we have to recognize that every child is overexposed to electronics. So it's a case of blending it in such a way that they have choices, and you can set up that, not sit at your desk in the corner and play and game, or if you do, look at creative ways to change positioning is my first suggestion. Looking at what's available gaming-wise, because there's a lot of games out there where they are putting together more motor planning type activities. I'm thinking Wii, because I'm old, but I know there's more, right? And there are ways of extending visual fields. Like I used to plug iPad games into my projector and put them on the ceiling, and then they are visually scanning right across the room rather than just visually moving their eyeballs this much. Do we all have the ability to do that? No. I wouldn't necessarily do that every day at home, but there are options. My nephew, who is high-functioning autism diagnosis, one of the greatest struggles they faced when he was young is he could not put his PlayStation, Game Boy, the things that fit in your pocket. It was distressing, very, very distressing for him. So my sister had the approach to allow it, and then come in, like tune in, tune out. And it worked for them. It did not work for him and his father. So it is trust-based, it's relationship-based. And again, it causes a lot of anxiety if you restrict too vehemently. He now works for Warner Brothers, designing for Lego games. Brilliant. He is the problem solver for all of the bugs he fixes. And he's on more money than I will ever make in my lifetime, bless him. Still struggles with living alone. However, so if a kid is really into something, there's a reason. What are they telling you? I'm really into this. This is my fit. This is, nothing else is giving me the same amount of, all right, so what can we do to set up another activity to give you? And often that is more labor intensive because it involves you interacting with. One of the ideal things about electronic games is you can like, go play. I can catch up with the laundry, right? So there's a, you know, there's a lot behind that question, but it's a very good question. Thank you. Any other ideas on that? Or anything that's worked for someone else? Okay, we'll move on to the next slide, which is a video. You can like relax and not listen to me for a little bit. About 8 minutes, I think. Do we have sound? So this is a video clip from a series by Harvard Learning in the Brain that has been set up specifically for child development. And it's covering a theory called serve and return. And again, you're going to look and you're going to think, oh, I am kind of already doing this, right? But it's acknowledging and recognizing that you're doing it and going, huh, Harvard Learning of the Brain tell me that this is a good idea. This is what I'm already doing. So tuning in to kids, sharing their focus. Again, this is a finding that moment skill. And it might well be going in the opposite direction to where you were heading with that child, and then acknowledging that and joining them. Does that make sense? So you're building moments, and you're building connection. And you're building a concept of, right, this is happening now, what's next? Anticipation. This, then that. It's a very supportive, engaging framework for play. And, you know, raise your hand if you've never done this. See, I knew you were. I knew everyone was doing it. But as you recognize the steps, you can build on them and really project those moments into longer moments of problem solving, particularly with older kids, allowing them to stop, think, process, and build that level of cognition. Early development, you can bring in a lot of naming. But in addition, when you've got a child's attention, you can bring in novelty. So many of the kids that I work with, they're comfortable with a set routine or a set of things. Let me see, it used to be back in the day, because I'm old, Thomas the Tank Engine. All right, what came after Thomas the Tank Engine? Percy. We had, there was a purple dinosaur at one time. Yep, Barney was there. And you know, it cyclically changes, but it's the same brain development routine where they're like, why are they stuck on that one toy? For my nephew, it was Pokemon. Thank goodness it served him well. He went from Thomas the Tank Engine to Pokemon, and he set up a Pokemon society at university and everywhere else that he's lived with great flow of interest with like-minded neurodiverse adults. Served him very well. I'm not sure how that would have worked if it had been Barney. So taking turns. So serve and return is like the back and forth. If I say ping pong, it's like a game of ping pong, you know, your ball coming back and forth. And you can change, when I say novelty, it's not always changing the what, but sometimes the intensity, or adding sound effects, or little tweaks that go, that was unexpected. Yes, unexpected things happen in life all the time. How did it feel? What are we going to do next? Are you okay? All right. It made me feel that way too. All right? I know, I apologize. It does have a sound effect. They have their own lovely audio that you can look at. It's available on YouTube if you want to hear what they have to say, because they are like really smart. Harvard and Learning in the Brain, but it's very, very nice. And it helps particularly if you're working with or if you're living with a child who likes things a certain way and you're trying to help them broaden their horizons. These types of approaches are lovely to teach to grandparents, to friends, to help them to feel comfortable with like back and forth engagement. Does that make sense? To give some structure or scaffolding around interactions and play. We start here, we do this, and then it's done. So you're practicing beginnings and endings. I use a lot of scripting, like a 5-year-old on virtual telehealth has no idea when I'm going to be done. The parents rarely have an idea when I'm going to be done either, to be fair. But when I start talking about, okay, I'm going to go make my husband a guacamole sandwich. Already? That means we're done. And there's a little back and forth because we practice that as a beginning. We start talking about that at the early sessions when I, come up with something that works for an individual and that's comfortable. For my own children, I used to put a timer on the fridge. When it goes ding, turn the telly off, it's time to go to school. That wouldn't work for most of the children I play with. But my kids, remarkably, when they were very young, they were super obedient. It was like Pavlov's dogs. And then they moved up a grade and it was all over. 12, 13-year-olds are not going to do that. By the way, I'm sorry, it's not a technique I would recommend. Okay, so now I'm going to pass you over a little bit to Kristen. She's going to introduce Lily and also give you the opportunity to speak American again. All right, because I have very funny phonics. I've been here 30 years and it's still this bad. There you go.
Thanks. I'm going to introduce Lily because her mom can't be here tonight because she is ill. Lil is ill. However, her case is super interesting. So without giving you boring details about little Lily, I will tell you that I met her when she was very, very young. Like very young, probably 6 months. She is completely deaf. She has a syndrome that involves malrotation of her intestines. She's had multiple surgeries. She has an occluded airway. She has holes in the back of her eyes, so what she sees is questionable, better in one eye than the other. Her syndrome is called CHARGE syndrome, often comorbidity with autism. She's missing semicircular canals in her head, which are what Mary referenced had to do with vestibular system. So I've been practicing for a long time. Mary's been practicing for a long time. I've never met anybody that didn't have semicircular canals. I'm like, I don't even know. Can we make her walk? Can we get her to crawl? Can we get her to sit up? Like, I have no idea. I had no frame of reference for not having this anatomical piece. Super, super sickly little girl. There's certain targets that you hit and you hope that the little ones can stay alive. So she hit those milestones, thank you, Jesus, and she is alive. Her mom is ridiculously on the ball. Went to school to be a PTA and never got through her boards because she got pregnant. However, there is not a better scenario for us being able to educate the mom. She is all in, both feet, every ounce of every day. I don't even know when she sleeps. The reason why Lily is super interesting is because if you think stereotypically, she would be considered deaf, blind, autistic. What do we think that Lily was going to be able to interpret? She didn't care about people when she was young, and then, bless, COVID came. So she comes from being in our clinic many, many days a week with her feeding tube and her supplemental oxygen and her nighttime apnea and her inability to be interested in toys and our hooray, now she's crawling and now we're holding her and moving her, and I have mom's hands frequently, stop, stop, mom, stop, stop, mom, stop, don't do it for her. Like, she's making progress, but then there's this whole world of momness to do for her. Stop, let's see where we can get her, So the connection piece that mom had with her was so amazing. She could anticipate, much like all parents, many steps ahead. So when to jump in and prevent a problem versus when to let a problem roll out to let the problem solving happen. So Katrina says, I can't bring her in. It's a health risk. COVID's out there. I want to do telehealth. And I'm thinking, there's not a chance that Lily is going to look at some screen and we're going to sit there and say, this is a great idea. Let's teach you to walk. Because at this point we were, educating her on walking and getting up on top of things. And so credit past what I can even say is what Lily and Katrina have done on telehealth with Mary. It's unprecedented. Lily has made gains in every area. Katrina has learned to be a multifaceted therapist by being coached, and it all has to do with the ability for them to limit the amount of stuff, excessive stuff, and use the human interaction piece as the primary tool. So can you read my face? Can you read my body language? Do you even care? When you chuck it against the wall, what am I gonna do? How am I gonna help? How am I gonna stop? How am I gonna set it up? So Lily defies everything that I would have said. I would have told you that it was unethical to treat her by telehealth. And now I stand completely corrected that it is not ideal. It is absolutely not ideal. But there is no ceilings on kids if we can make them connect to the human piece, the human interaction, the bond. So we're going to show you some videos. Mary's going to talk out how the treatment plan rolled out. And the big takeaway is understanding that she doesn't speak, she can't hear, her vision is impaired, she has a feeding tube. The typical delay for deaf children is an additional 3 to 5 years to gain skills, and Lily is now signing. How does she know? How does she know what a word? She is moving her mouth and making signs. She is signing back to her mother. She is making requests. She is participating in symbolic play with a baby doll. It's unbelievable. So the pre-education was really just to show you how amazing Mary has been with Lily, how amazing Lily is, and to not ever put a ceiling on our kids.
So with an attitude of unconditional positive regard, I spoke to Katrina, Mum, and said, I've been asked to do telehealth and I've never done telehealth before. And I have to say, I think it could be the fact, like, if at any point you feel what we're doing is not working and is on the edge of like, you shouldn't be billing for this. This is not worthy, right? Because that's my biggest concern overall. That plus I don't want to hurt your child. There was that one too. But whole new paradigm shift. And internationally, we've all been dealing with change, right? So we start off, we've got a treatment plan, and the fundamental key to work to my joyous events that have resulted with Lily and Mum have been connecting, finding moments. One of the biggest session lessons was stop, take a breath. Feel that? That's a moment. We're going to call that a moment. Can you feel it? Stopping to take pause, to allow Lily to feel it and understand it a little bit and then move on, because she moves really fast. She has no balance. So keeping her safe is a priority, And mum moves really fast as a result. So how do you slow down? So that has been a goal. Okay, so we need to change positions so that we can work on this skill without worrying about posture, and then letting her feel it. Oh, with regular kids, what's a regular kid? Listen, learn, and do, right? Follow me. Out of the ballpark, doesn't exist. Okay, so let's have a look at the next slide, which, I don't have off the top of my head. Oh, yes, I do. So how does Lily connect? Remember at the very, very beginning when I said, you learn so much when you're actually working with kids and playing with kids and parenting kids. And it's not just about what they say in terms of communication. We're looking at facial expressions, respiratory rate, postural control. Lily communicates so much without words, but she's still communicating. She's got these eyebrows that go up and down when she's really, really happy. I'm like, whoa, take it, I'll take it, right? Teaching her to seek out mum. Oh, there she is, right? Take her hand. Now you take mum to the toy you want. Don't lie on the floor and scream and have a hissy fit. Go find an adult to help you. All right, next step. By the way, that's your mother. All right, next step. This is the sign for mother, right? So step by step by step. Oh, we got that? Okay, now that item that you want, you need to sign for it. No, I'm not going to come with you. What do you want? Mum's now pretty fluent in ASL. Do I need to be fluent? Every step of our interactions is parent coaching. Please sign this. This is what I'm thinking. Can you sign it? Because my ability to sign is redundant at this point. I've learned a bit along the way. But looking at how the quality of movement, physiological response. So physiological is pretty much just a fancy long word for the brain talking to the body and the body talking to the brain for arousal levels, respiration. Kids that are anxious, you'll see them often. Have you ever seen a kid develop like a skin rash when they get nervous? Or red ears? Or start chewing their lip? Or when they cut, they do this. And you get like what I call tongue out of mouth. That's a decrease in the development of the central nervous system, okay? So all of these levels of communication speak to us as to how Lily is developing so that we can what? Tune into those moments and help facilitate the next level. And it's no different with kids of all different abilities. Next slide, please. Moments, connection. Can you do this with older kids? Does it have to be a babe? No. We play like this with all ages, right? Next slide, please. So Operation Connection was all about engagement. See me, hear me, feel me, move with me, sense me. And one advantage of being a virtual therapist, the smell me, I never had to deal with. But let me tell you, gaseous kids, let me tell you, they're out there. You start moving those tummy muscles, woohoo! All right, I know. She'll tell you when she's got tummy ache without using words. Next slide, please. So, developing cause and effect. So we're playing a simple block game, and I say, Mum, put that chair over the top of her, like you do, and then sit on the chair, and then look down. What happened? What happened? Simple, cheap as chips. Can't buy that. It's not VTech. Very, very powerful way to engage with your child. Again, at any level, but I'm not sure I do it with a 13-year-old. They might have a problem with that. But I would roll them in a blanket, with them down a room, quite likely. Air mattress, air mattress. Okay, so what happened? All right, now we're under the bed. I know we usually do this sitting up, but today we're going under. So we're under the bed in this bottom picture. What? Where? Why? What happened? What's next? Developing processing, problem solving. She doesn't have to problem solve independently, but to be able to give her the time to join you. And next this, and next this. Next slide, please. We cannot, you guys all know this, you cannot overemphasize the importance of touch when it's enough, when it's not enough. We introduced a massage technique for body and joint awareness, and she would seek it out. Come up to mum, grab it and go, I'm ready for my joint jiggles. And novelty. How do you interpret touch? How do you move? How do you control a movement that you've mastered? Walking on carpet, now you have to do the same movement walking on grass. Very different. Shoes and socks off at all times, right? We do a lot of messy play. Why? Tactile, touch, making a mark, cause and effect. Next slide, please. Building connections. So these pictures here really show, it's oral motor therapy. How do you get into a child's mouth via virtual therapy? Well, through the mum. Well, how do you get the mum comfortable? Well, you make a lot of silly faces, let me tell you. I record all my sessions just so if you ever want to, But imitation is so important, but also having a relationship with a child where they feel safe. You're going into a very private space for oral motor work. So look at this, top right. Here's your turn, and now you do with mum. Serve and return, back and forth. Huge. Not always doing to the child. Boom. It's not always superimposed on the child. You need to learn this. Do it with me. My turn. Next slide, please. Oh. So we seek these moments. One face that says it all. Okay? Do you see me up there at the very, very top? It's rare that Lily will look at me on the screen, but when she does, I will always find her position and flow with her. Next slide, please. All right, I kind of, we talk a lot, I talk a lot, I'm so sorry. But I gave you a sheet so that you could have a little brainstorm if you wanted to. It's on the table in front of you, I know. It's like, really? Do I have to pick it up now? Are you like walking close to me so I have to pick it? Yeah, you have to pick it up now. So what these breakout questions or brainstorm, this is not a like throw you under the bus, you have to go talk to a stranger exercise. But it's really thinking about, for you personally, what are your hurdles? What do you feel are your hurdles to connect to a child with unconditional positive regard? I don't always get it right, but I'm much better at thinking back on what I've done and going, oh, yeah, I kind of missed that moment and I should have, right? Thinking about it for next time. Can you think of ways to make it easier? So if you're thinking about, if you're working in a family unit, like you look pretty comfortable. Do you live in the same place, cut together? You're like, I see a ring, good. Do you have one too? All right, just checking. So now you would be reflecting with each other. I noticed that we did this and you bounced that back. That looked really good. That seemed to really help. So you can, like having that discussion is really important. So you can build your own awareness and repertoire. I started recording my sessions so I could watch. I'm an army of one. I'm a virtual army of one. I work from home. So I watch the videos on my own because I have no life. And and learn so much about, oh, I came in too soon then. Take a breath, Mary. You talk too much. It's one of my things. They didn't say that to me at school. You know, just being aware of your own interactions with the kids. For me, that was one of my biggest hurdles, is like myself, like being aware of what I was doing. So how does unconditional positive regard apply to older children? Young children, we've got Lily, we're thinking of younger kids. I've given you a list of references for Harvard Learning in the Brain on that sheet that you can take home with you. And that will show you some great resources. But for older kids, how does it apply? And kind of we've touched on it a little bit, but that's another consideration. How does activity, engagement, and play influence a child's defense mechanism? So we talk about terms like ready, set, go, and being in a ready, alert state, being in overload, if it's too much at one time, too much too soon, too loud, too bright. So checking on, remember the bottom of the pyramid? Checking your input on all those levels to make sure you're not being too loud. That's another one of my things I have to watch myself on, by the way. You're not wearing perfume. That'll knock someone out, right? I don't wear perfume anymore. All right, so little things like that. What can affect a child's defense mechanisms and cause anxiety during play? We're playing. Why are you anxious? Because you're pushing too hard, too fast. That's that sort of thinking. What examples of language can you interpret from your own child or children that you work with that do not involve the spoken word? Here's some examples. You ready? Raise your hand if you've ever thought about these or you want to chime one in. Kicking the baseboards, rolling on the floor, hitting their heads. Okay, these are like over the top, angry, too much. What else? Yelling, guttural vocalization, spitting. These are all forms of communication. Biting. Does Lily bite? Yes. When? When every other cue has not been picked up. And she's at her, this is my final word on the subject. I will not do messy play right now. So how you tune into nonverbal communication is very important because it will influence behaviors. Do we have time for another video? Yesterday, I copied everything she did with her hands and she was watching really carefully. Very cool. Do you vibe handy? Oh, she's happy. Don't watch me. Watch mummy. Mm-hmm.
Aw. So cute. Look at her. She's laughing at you. Look at her.
Most people do.
Aw. Aw. Oh my god. So cute. Are you seriously being this cute right now? I can't. Where's my phone? So
I got this. I think we got this.
cute.
From the first session, Mum was like, I need to write everything down. Can I record? Yeah. I'm like, don't worry, I got this. I will reflect back for you. But that's a great example of, you build the connections and then connect and make. That was like the first time that we got that. It was a few weeks ago. I'm a patient woman. I'll wait a year for a smile. Okay, so we build anticipation. 1, 2, 3, go. Who's played that? All of us, right? Does it have to be verbal or can it be 1? Do you feel it? 3, go. all right? So building predictable routines, building rhythm, building moments. Next slide. Role play. We got a little cup and a dolly and a mummy. Mummy takes a sip, Lily takes a sip, Dolly takes a sip, turn taking. Will she tolerate doing this how many times? Not many, but it's very powerful, even if you get through one repetition. You do, I do, the interconnection. Next slide.
Right, let's slip another banana inside the sock, inside her palm. Oh, too quick. Found it, Mum. I see what's going on. Oh, what happened? Novelty. Hello. Oh. Thank you. Hello. Oh, yummy.
Mum's goal was to play a new game she'd bought, put the banana through the monkey's mouth, put the banana through the monkey's mouth. Oh, no, no, no. That's not holding it for Lily. No, 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 no. Just, okay, so think on your feet. Pull things out of your back pocket like, oh, okay, let's put a sock on her hand and put the banana up there, and then what's she going to do with it? Let's see. All right, don't do that to a 13-year-old. Well, that's going to be a theme for this evening. All right, so novelty is key, all right? Engagement. Next slide. Okay, the best gift a child can have is not bought in a store. It is you. The end.